Are your parents divorced, or do you have any close friends whose parents are divorced?
Yes, I do, but my parents are still together.
Yeah, they're separated right now.
My parents are divorced.
My parents are separated.
My parents are still together, surprisingly. They're still together for now.
I have friends that are parents are divorced.
My parents aren't, but I have a lot of friends who are.
We have a couple of friends whose parents are divorced.
My parents divorced a long time ago, but my dad remarried.
Actually, my parents are divorced. My mother left me when I was about 6 years old, and she moved off to England. So I'm living with my father right now.
Yeah, my parents have been divorced too.
My parents are divorced, actually.
My parents have been divorced since I was 8.
My parents are divorced since a year now, and it's a very painful experience.
In the United States, nearly half of all marriages end in divorce.
More than 1 million children are affected by their parents divorcing each year.
Nothing can prepare you for your parents' divorce, regardless of the circumstances.
For some teenagers, this can be devastating.
In most cases, you end up spending more time with one parent simply because of geography.
So, how do you keep from losing your relationship with both parents in the midst of a divorce? That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Jack.
And I'm Catherine.
And this is Realfaith TV.
You know, Jack, I do speak from experience because my parents have been divorced for 4 years now. It was really, really hard, but I managed to get through it, and I do have a good relationship with both of my parents.
You know, I don't have any personal experience, Catherine, but I do understand the emotional roller coaster children of divorced parents can experience, since I have a few friends who've gone through this.
You could say that our spotlight guest Joey is an expert in this area, since he also survived his parents' divorce and has an excellent relationship with both of his parents.
We'll hear his story later in the show and speak with our studio guests, a few of whom also have lived through the divorce of their parents.
But first, let's go back to the teens on the street and find out what their relationships are like with their divorced parents.
What is your relationship like with each of your parents?
It's harder than it was before when they were together.
I'm closer to my mom than my dad.
Really non-existent, actually. It's just hi and bye, you know?
I haven't talked to my mother since I was 6 years old, so for like 12 years I haven't talked to her. And my relationship with my father is real tight.
My dad I'm good with, my mom, it's all right.
Me and my dad play pool like every night, so every time I can see him, I do.
Do you keep in touch with the parent that you don't live with?
No, not really.
I'm going to see him every summer.
Sometimes he'll call me to say how I was doing, but we don't really talk that much really.
My mom, she comes by around, you know, sometimes when I'm hungry, she cooks me some food.
My mom's always gone, never see her at all. Haven't seen her in a lot of years. But my dad, I'm close with him.
I try to visit my dad every 2 weeks, but it's not always as easy. But I try to stay as close to him as I do with my mother, who I live with.
Yeah, I see my dad usually once a week. I live with my mom currently, and I'm probably closer with her than my dad.
I try to visit my dad every weekend. I stay with my mom, honestly. I talk to my dad, every now and then we'll do stuff. But also, even when the divorce happened, it was kind of mutual between them, so there wasn't any hard feelings or anything.
I live with my mom, and my relationship is definitely closer with her just because I see her every day. But, I have a good relationship with my dad at the same time. It wasn't always so easy, but after 4 years, it got a little bit easier to deal with.
So let's meet our studio guests now and find out what they've experienced or witnessed when it comes to teenagers and their relationship with their divorced parents.
They are Marissa, John, Ijama, Kira, Anthony, and Jessica.
So, for those of you who have divorced parents, how is your relationship with both of your parents?
Well, like Kath and I live with my mother, so it's probably, my relationship is a lot better with her. I'm a lot closer. And just recently, my dad's been starting to call more often, and I talk to him a lot. So it's getting better, but it takes a lot from everybody, because I don't drive yet, so my mom has to drive me to my dad's house and stuff like that. So it's work to make it get along, but I think if you try, you can get it to work.
Yeah, I have a really good relationship with both my parents, and I don't always get to see my dad all the time, but I do make an effort to talk to him every once in a while.
For those of you dealing with friends that have divorces in their families, maybe you could share some of their experiences.
Well, I have a really good friend, and he lives with his mom and his stepdad, but he doesn't really ever talk to his dad or see his dad because he lives in Virginia. So it's really hard for him to make that work.
Yeah, I have a couple friends whose parents live really far apart and they don't get to see each other like months at a time. And then I have other friends whose parents are like a couple blocks away down the street and they have close relationships with their parents.
I have one friend who is able to see her dad a lot because he works in the town she lives in, so it's a lot easier for her to just go see him every day, and it's good for her because she likes to see him and because she lives with her mom. It's nice. So.
One of my best friends, his dad recently moved to North Carolina, and so he lives with his mom, but his two sisters live with his dad, and he had a really hard time with his dad moving to North Carolina because he never get to see him again or never get to see his sisters, and the only time he would get to see him would maybe be like for a week, maybe in summer.
Yeah, I have a friend whose his dad lives close by, but they never see each other, mostly because I think my friend isn't ready yet. You know, it's kind of recent, so they really have no relationship at all. So
I went through that. I couldn't be around my dad for a while, so there's like different stages you go through.
yeah. Teenagers have different reactions to the stresses of divorce.
These reactions may include feelings of sadness, betrayal, anxiety, aggression, and anger.
They may experience a lack of ability to concentrate in school or experience abnormal sleep patterns.
Their reactions may depend on their age and ability to understand.
Our spotlight guest, Joey, was only 4 years old and his brother was 2 when his parents divorced.
Let's meet Joey now and find out what kind of a relationship he has with his parents.
Growing up, my relationship with my dad was a little distant. He lived about 45 minutes away over by New York City, and I only saw him maybe every other weekend. Every Wednesday night he'd come over, we'd get dinner, and then every Monday after the weekend that I wasn't with him. I know it sounds a little confusing, but I was able to deal with it after a while. But as I matured, as I grew older, the relationships have changed because I was spending a lot more time with my dad because he was coaching me, he was being at all my sports games. Even though I may not see my dad every day, we have that relationship where we talk every day and he's always with me. I don't really know how to describe my relationship with my parents before the divorce happened because I was so young, but I can say since I've matured and since I've grown with divorced parents, it's gotten a lot easier because at first it was up to them. It was all on my parents' shoulders. The time that I spent with my dad was like a regimented almost. It was like I couldn't spend more time with him than if I wanted to. But then as soon as I matured, I was able to like stand up for myself and be like, I need to talk to my dad. And then especially when I got my license, if I'd have like a problem with my mom and I need to go talk to my dad, I could just drive over to his house. He moved a lot closer as we got older. My parents both put so much effort into letting my brother and I grow up just as a normal life, and I couldn't imagine any other way. I couldn't imagine if my parents were still together because personally, I realized their personalities clash terrifically, and there'd be no way that they could live together. But the fact that I'm able to have great relationships with them, and now my stepdad and my father's fiance, is like 2 great families opposed to 1.
Sounds like Joey's experience has been the best possible that you could ask for in a difficult situation.
Let's find out how challenging it was for the teens on the street to maintain a relationship with both of their parents.
How difficult is it to maintain a close relationship with both of your parents?
It's hard because my dad's separated, so he gets like grouchy and annoyed and that he can't see us as much as he did.
Well, I'm never really close to my dad in the first place, so it's just kind of like the same. And it happened when I was little, so I don't really like pay attention that much.
Not difficult for you?
No.
Well, the girl who I'm thinking of, one of her parents live in the city, the other one lives an hour away, so she's always traveling in between them, just a distance.
It's the amount of effort you put into it, and I think if it comes from both sides, it's very easy to maintain.
I think it's really difficult to maintain a good relationship with both parents. I mean, I know that it's been hard to keep close to my dad just because I'm around my mom so much that I learn from her more than my dad. So
It's kind of hard for me sometimes because my mom and dad now have said like some like disputes between each other, but I find it's like easiest for me to stay out of everything.
What advice do you have for other teenagers whose parents are divorced on how to maintain a close relationship with both of their parents?
Just not to like judge them and still talk to them and act the way you used to.
Just keep in touch with them.
Just love them and do the best you can.
Try to spend time with both of them equal amounts.
Just don't take sides when they're arguing against each other. That's what really messes stuff up.
It's true. You need to stay out of their relationship. arguments, or disagreements.
It can be really difficult, though, for some teenagers who find themselves in the middle of a divorce war.
Yeah, with each parent trying to convince you to be angry or blame the other parent for the breakup.
Being the rope in a tug of war is an uncomfortable position.
This often leads to animosity between you and one or both of your parents.
How can you choose to love one parent and not the other?
What happens when one parent becomes angry that you won't take their side?
Have any of you guys experienced this or had any friends choose to side with one parent in a divorce?
I luckily have never had to go through that because, I was younger when my parents divorced and they would never put me through that. But I did have a friend who ended up siding with her mom against her dad, and they actually had a really messy divorce and she was put in the middle of it.
Well, I live with my mom, and so sometimes she'll say stuff about my dad. I mean, most of the time I kind of just blow it off as like she's just kind of in a bad mood about it or something like that. But and sometimes she does have a point, but most of the time it's just her being in a bad mood about it.
Yeah, even for kids who don't have parents who are divorced, if they're still together, if they get into a fight or something, on a car ride home or whatever, you get home that day and you hear from different sides, like, oh, your mother, this and that, and then you go to your mom and your mom's like, your father's such a, I don't know. It's like it can happen even for parents who are still together. So sometimes you just gotta, you really can't take sides. There's not much you could do about that.
My one friend always flip-flops back and forth because she goes back and forth from their house if she lives with one parent and then goes to the other one. So it's hard to side with one parent when she goes back and forth. So
yeah, I mean, in an optimum world, you don't want to side with one, but it's impossible to keep from siding with one or the other or both, kind of, in different situations. Like both my parents, whether they know it or not, they play me off the other one all the time. Like my dad's gotten a lot better about it because he's more moved on so than my mom has, but that can make it really, really difficult when your parents don't understand that you are really being in a huge tug of war, like every day. One thing that I know for sure is that no matter what the situation, you can't cope with a divorce on your own. You need to find someone, a trusted friend, an adult, or even a counselor to help you through it.
Joey found that an elementary school counselor helped him to learn how to deal with the emotions he faced having divorced parents.
He also found that communication is key in his relationship with both of his parents.
One of the people that was very influential in growing up with divorced parents was my counselor in grade school, Mrs. Roberts. And I didn't learn it until maybe a few years ago when I matured a lot. But every week, once or twice a week, I'd be taken out of class with a few other kids and we'd go and sit in her office and just play little games, dumb activities that I found meaningless at the time. But now I learned that they're really meaningful activities that help me deal with my emotions through the divorce and just basically talk out any problems that we have with other kids who are in the same situations. There was one time, I think I was 9 years old, and I still didn't really understand the whole divorce situation, but all I knew is that when August came, I spent 2 weeks down the shore with my dad and only 1 week down the shore with my mom. And I always liked going down the shore with my mom because the rest of my family was there. I had 6, 7 cousins that are about my age that we always had so much fun. And going down the shore to my dad's house wasn't as much fun because it wasn't on the beach. There weren't many cousins. I was like, why am I spending 2 weeks with my dad and only 1 week with my mom? I actually talked to Mrs. Roberts that year about it. I realized that it was another way of my dad to just spend more time with me, even though I'm not spending so much time with him at home. I really learned that it's very important to talk it out with them. If you have a problem, don't be afraid to talk to them because they're willing. They always would ask me what's wrong, what's the matter, what's going on. They'd always pry me for information, and a lot of times it'd be extravagant information that I really didn't have an answer for. Because that was the first time I really talked to my parents about being divorced and the vacation time in general. And I think that actually opened the doors for communication on just more general everyday terms, talking about, oh, I want to go to Dad's tonight because I haven't seen him in a while. And then my mom would be like, okay, that's not a big deal, as opposed to when I wouldn't say it, but I want to go to my dad's and I get frustrated. So communication just opens every door.
Counseling can really, really help you. I went to a therapist for a while because I couldn't get things straight in my head. I was blaming myself, I was blaming all the wrong people, I was focusing really bad energy in wrong directions.
Well, I've never had counseling, but now that it's getting harder for me to see my dad because I'm getting older and I have more things to do, I'm actually hoping to get some help with that. But like when I was first going through the divorce since I was young, I had a friend my age who just had her parents go through a divorce. Like as she was getting better, I was just getting like to the worst of it. So she actually helped me a lot, and it was really great. And then my first grade teacher, like she let me have lunch with her the day she found out and stuff because my mom called the school. So you know, just the small things helped me out.
Yeah, also communication is really important, whether it be with both of your parents or a friend or a counselor.
Yeah, I have one friend who confronted me, and I don't want to say like I was counseling her, but like I was helping her through it, and she confronted me first, and it's hard to know what to do when you haven't experienced it, but just being there for someone when they're going through something like that is really important.
Yeah, and if there's like, you know, like you said in the beginning of the show, that there's over half Americans, they go through divorces, you know, there's bound to be somebody else going through your situation, so it would be a really good idea to talk to somebody who's going through the same things as you.
Also, like with my friends, when I always, like they'll talk to me about how they don't really want to talk to their parents, but like you try to encourage them and be like, oh, come on, he's your dad, like he really wants to talk to you, or you know your mom like wants to hear from you. So like just being that little encouragement is also important too.
I didn't really have anybody encouraging me to talk to my dad. It actually took him being in the hospital for me to go see him and talk to him for the first time after like 4 months of not talking for a period of time. It really is important to maintain good communication with both parents.
This may require special attention or creativity, but it's worth the effort.
Try to avoid conflicts over schedules as much as possible.
Make it your priority to maintain a healthy relationship with both parents.
Finding a common interest with each parent will help this.
It will make it easier to plan time together and make that time rewarding for both of you.
Next, Joey gives us some advice on trying to preserve your relationship with both parents, even when they don't get along.
Well, fortunately for me, my parents got along through the whole situation, and they love me more than they dislike each other, which I think is the greatest feeling you could ever have. But I see on my dad's side of the family, there's one child who his parents do not get along whatsoever. And so he's hearing bad ideas coming from both sides. Like his dad will bash his mom in front of him, and then his mom will talk to him about his dad, and I just see him being extremely confused. So one day actually I sat him down and started talking about how important it is that no matter what somebody else tells you about your relationship, just keep talking to whichever parent you've lost touch with, whichever parent you don't think you have that strong a relationship with. Regardless of what happens, you know you love them. You really do. You may think that you like one of them more, the one you spend more time with, maybe the one you don't spend more time with, because they're that cool parent that you don't see every so often. You only see them like special times. Try to talk to them every day, because you don't want it to be a special time when you're with them. You want it to be part of your life. You want them to know what's going on. Like I remember one time I was talking to him on the phone, and he was telling me, he actually got like wet in the eyes, because he was telling me about how he was in the airport, and this boy came down, and his parents were divorced, and his dad was there, and his dad looked at the boy and was like asking him all like the weirdest questions, like how's school, what are your teachers like, kind of stuff like that. And it like brought tears to my dad's eyes, because those are the questions he's never had to ask me, because we've had like such a close relationship talking on the phone every night. And I think that's just so important, to keep that everyday relationship with both your parents.
It's true. The more you can keep in touch with the parent you don't live with, the better the relationship will be. Use the telephone, email, or my favorite, text messaging.
Your dad can text?
He texts me all the time. I wake up and I have one from my dad. Just stay connected any way you can. Find the way that works best for both of you.
So what advice do you guys have for teenagers who are struggling to maintain a relationship with both of their parents after a divorce?
Well, you can go ahead.
Make sure you spend time with both of your parents. Don't take sides, and talk to people about how you feel about certain things.
Well, I know that you have to like get a whole group effort going. To keep a relationship with the other person who you're not living with takes a lot of effort from you as well as them. Like for me, I have to call my dad and talk to him, make plans to go over his house, because I know he just won't set everything up for me.
I think it's really important to talk to a counselor or just someone neutral in the whole situation. You need someone to voice your concerns. And I know I would get so frustrated sometimes because I didn't know what I was feeling and how to understand it. And when both of your parents aren't exactly pleased with the other one, I couldn't go to my parents to talk about what I was feeling.
My friend, she turned to God through prayer, and that helped her understand that the divorce wasn't her fault.
In addition to a counselor, my faith has definitely helped me to get through the rough times of my parents' divorce. And it helps me to maintain a good relationship with them.
Next, Joey gives us a little more advice and tells us how his Catholic faith has created a bond between his mother and him.
So I remember a lot of times when I was little, I'd see them fighting, and I didn't realize what was going on, and sometimes I wanted to take the angle like it's my fault, I did something wrong. But no matter what I do, I'm not going to be able to resolve their problems, the problems that are just between them. So all I can say is just remember that you're never the middleman. You're never responsible for their conflict. All you can do is keep the relationship with each parent as your own relationship. Don't get tangled up in whatever arguments they're having. And they're both there for you. Like, keep the relationship with your dad a little separate than the relationship with your mom, and don't really get into the issues that are between them. You're just gonna be set for life. You'll be much happier in the end. I think prayer has helped me through the divorce. It's helped me maintain relationships because my dad's family is Catholic and my mom's family is Presbyterian. And when I was little, before they got divorced, my dad decided that he was gonna raise us Catholic. So every Sunday we go to church. Like the Catholicism was like a big part in the lives of like me and my dad, like that side. And even though my parents are now divorced, my mom's basically taken up Catholicism without getting baptized and Holy Communion and stuff. So she comes to church with us just to like maintain her faith through us. Like, she always tells me like how much my faith means to her and how such like a great example. And she realizes how important my faith is to me, because I know growing up she didn't have a strong relationship with God, a strong faith at all. And I think that's kind of like created a bond between us where even though my parents aren't living together, there's that same mentality. So there's that same love that both of them share for it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I wish my parents could do that. I actually kind of split it up. Like my family always used to go to church. We were the every Sunday kind of little group. But I go with my mom, and then sometimes I go to my dad's new church. And I split it up and just, it's a time to reminisce on what I used to have with them, but what I still have now.
So, how has prayer helped you guys or your friends to maintain your relationship with both parents after a divorce?
Well, when I went on retreat with my one friend who had her parents recently divorced, she was praying a lot at that time because it was just a time to meditate and think about what was going on in her life. And I think it was she was able to realize how to communicate with both parents better, and prayer is just really powerful. So everyone should do it.
One of my uncles got divorced, and after his divorce, his faith was really strong. He went to church all the time. So prayer obviously helped him a lot.
You have to remember that no one's perfect, and through prayer you can learn to forgive those who, your parents who were divorced.
Well, I was young when my parents divorced, like I said, first grade, so I was still learning about my faith at that point. But now I pray for my younger brother who can relate more to my dad than my mom, so it's a lot harder for him, so I have to pray for him, and then my younger sister, and then I have my brother who's the son of my stepdad, and when we go to our dad's, he's alone at my house, so I pray for him, and it just takes a lot of work to keep all relationships going, and the only way you can do that is to look to God.
Well, I know one of my friends, he his parents just divorced, and he's still really not in a good relationship with his dad. He kind of feels violently almost towards him, and I don't know if he's praying, but I know I'm praying for him. So,
it's a crazy world we live in, and some of the things that happen, like divorces, really you have to turn to faith. You can't count on anything, you can't count on anything being concrete in these sort of situations. But prayer is the one thing that I feel you can really fall back on. I can tell you that it is really so important to pray for strength and patience, for the ability to forgive and to love each of your parents without conditions or judgment.
you can also talk with God about the way you are feeling. Be honest. It's okay to be mad or sad, or even glad if that's how you're really feeling.
Invite your parents to share in the events that matter to you, at school, in performances or athletics, and at church.
And pray for both of your parents. Ask God to heal their broken hearts and help them with their anger towards one another.
So, can you share some story or give advice on how to maintain a relationship with both of your parents after a divorce?
We'd love to hear from you. Contact us through our website.
The address is www.realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
And one final message of encouragement.
Psalm 37, verses 23 and 24 reads,
Those whose steps are guided by the Lord,
whose way God approves may stumble.
but they will never fall, for the Lord holds their hand.
Remember, you're not alone.
God sees the goodness in your heart.
The intention to honor both of your parents and have a good relationship with them.
He will show you the way and be right beside you.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on Real Faith TV. God bless.